I'm Bridget Lake, president of the Oviedo Winter Springs Regional Chamber of Commerce, and we are here with Andria Herr, running for County Commission District 5, serving Seminole County. Our premier virtual Eastside Regional Hob Nob is presented by Lucas Land Group, an Oviedo-based family-run business with interests throughout Central Florida. Our sponsor, Duke Energy, our radio sponsor, 96.5 WDBO, and our website sponsor, Palm Tree Tech Center. Now, before we begin our conversation, let's watch a quick commercial from our sponsor, Duke Energy.
Across Florida, we're listening to customers like you, and we're working hard to build the brighter energy future you and your family deserve. That's why we're making smart investments in the grid to improve reliability and prevent outages, to use more clean, renewable energy like solar, and to give you better control over your energy use today and in the years ahead. We're Duke Energy, and we're building a smarter energy future for you.
And now we are back with Andria Herr, running for County Commission District 5, serving Seminole County. She is one of our candidates at the Eastside Regional Hob Nob. How are you doing today, Andria?
I'm doing wonderful, Bridget. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. It is feels like a Friday, even though it isn't. So let me ask you, before we get into everything, why don't you start with a little bit about yourself?
So I actually have been a resident of Seminole County since 1986. I'm a graduate of Stetson University. Go Hatters. You don't hear that much in chamber meetings when we're there. We always hear that other college up in Alachua County. I have been committed to the Seminole County community for years and years. I'm married. I have 2 children. I've been married for 30-some years, all to the same man. My children are 25 and 20. One of them is a Stetson Hatter. He's a graduate. And my second son is a Go Knights, a UCF student who aspires to be in the engineering program. I'm a professional woman. I've worked my entire adult life. And I've spent 30-some years in the insurance industry placing benefits packages for large employers. I currently work for Highland, and that's one of the largest privately held insurance agencies in the country. And we are a very family-oriented, community-based organization, and they have encouraged me to run for office to help support the community in a positive way. So I have employer support, family support, have been committed to the community for years.
And I do know that about you. In fact, we have and still do serve on a board together, Leadership Seminole. Yeah. What are some of the boards that you do serve on? What are some of the community aspects that you're involved with? And what's the actually most rewarding board that you serve on?
Well, that's actually a really good question. So I'll start with the first part of that question. I currently serve on the Central Florida Expressway Authority Board, which is probably the most challenging board that I've ever sat on. It's certainly the most impactful to the community. It's the ability to get to and from work and home is critical to our community. And that organization is unbelievable at delivering excellent, safe travel passage for our community. So I think that probably has the most economic impact on the community of any board that I've served on. The one that is probably the nearest and dearest to my heart, there's probably 2, and those fall into the education category. I spent 20-some years serving on the Foundation for Seminole County Public Schools. I actually chaired it twice. It was an organization that I worked for that made the first significant donation to the endowment, which is now large enough to give back to the students and teachers every year. So I'm extremely proud of that. And I serve on the Seminole State Board. I actually roll off in a few weeks. But it's been impactful to go past K-12 and into upper education with an organization that is truly committed to changing the lives of people in our community, not only from an education perspective, but from an employer perspective. So without an educated workforce, employers have a more difficult time recruiting, and they impact that positively. They train our nurses, they train our first responders, they train our police, fire. It's amazing the work that they do. So those are probably the two most meaningful. I've also served on an advisory board for South Seminole Hospital, so one of the local hospitals, and Private Business Association of Seminole, so PBAS. I've been on that board and currently serve in that organization as well. There's been a lot of them. I've been the chairman in almost every place I've ever gone. Probably in a unique statement that I can make is that of all the boards I've ever served on and chaired, I've never actually sought the chairmanship. It is usually the organization that comes and asks. And so I think that's telling of the level of focus and attention that I can bring to an organization. I also, Bridget, like you, I'm a chamber geek, so I take that as a compliment. The impact that your organizations have in our community is significant, and I was a member and currently serve on the board of the Seminole County Regional Chamber Board. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. And I chaired that as well.
Yes, of course you are. And actually that comes to one of my questions also. How do you see the county commission working more with local chambers?
Well, the key word in that sentence, not lost on me, is more, and that's what I see. I think that the opportunity for economic development partnerships falls within the chambers. And so when the county commission is sourcing economic opportunities from outside of the state or other parts of the state to come into our community, it's chamber members that can sing that song louder than anybody else. They're in business, running businesses, thriving, and raising their families with a lifestyle that can't be matched in most other parts of the country. And I would rather hear from them if I were a business moving into a community than hear from somebody working for the government.
Absolutely, and chambers do play some great roles in this area. And when it comes to people in your life, is there anyone that you really see as a role model for you, maybe now or someone just recently or in the past when you were growing up?
So, two role models for me. I was blessed to have had the best parents in the universe. And so, wildly different humans, let me just be clear about that. They were Depression era children. They lived a very hard life. I'm a first generation college graduate. I'm living the American dream. My mother had a 5th grade education and my father was a GED that he earned in the Navy. He was a 20-year veteran of the Navy, served in World War II, was willing to stand up for his country, going live onto a beach, landing with the Marines, serving as a medic with a high school GED. Picking wounded soldiers up off of the field. Interestingly enough, when we were in the height of the pandemic and we were seeing the field hospitals being built in New York, my dad pioneered that. He actually went back to service with USAID during the Vietnam War. So he was a civilian who voluntarily went in to the war zone to build field hospitals using the expertise that he gained when he was landing on beaches in the Pacific in World War II. Can't have a better example than that. My mother was very different. She was singly the smartest businesswoman I've ever met with 5th grade education. And if she were here today, she'd be the CEO of some organization that I'd probably be working for, but that wasn't the opportunity that she had in her lifetime. Didn't cause her to miss a beat, but it caused her to teach me to be independent, to never rely on a man. I'll just say that out loud from a very young age. My generation, a lot of us were going to college to meet somebody to marry. And that was never my destiny. And I knew that from a very strong female influence. And for that, I'm grateful. There's been a lot of people in this community that have positively influenced me and given great role model, but nobody will come close to the impact of those two. If you ask me for somebody that is still with us, would probably be my sister and my husband, who still have a tremendous amount of influence, although my sister shall never see this interview because I'll never let her know that. And my husband knows that, but those are the two that have the most impact.
Well, it sounds like you have an incredible family.
Thank you.
As we wrap this up, is there anything else you would like to add?
Yes, Bridget, I think as we venture into this political season, and it is crazy time, let's just call it like it is. For those of us that historically have not been in politics, and I'm one of those people, I've never run for office before, I always looked for the candidate that I thought could do the most good in the position that they were seeking, based on the experience that they bring to the table and their ability to coalesce the other folks that serve in those roles around them to bring the best ideas out and execute on them with precision. And I think I can do that based on the experience that I have, 30 years, solid business experience. I've run payrolls. I've worked for large Fortune 100 firms, excelled in all of those roles. I've looked a person in the eye and said, this might not be the best fit for you. Let me help you land somewhere else. One of the greatest campaign contributions that I ever got was from a former employee of mine that ended up with a fantastic career when our togetherness was not a great fit. So it's somebody like that that can think outside of the box, that sits in those seats the best and serves the community well. I think I can do that. I'm all about bringing this economy back. I think you need a business person in the commission to do that. And I think I can do that for you well. Bridget, I appreciate you to death for doing this. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. That is Andria Herr. She's running for County Commission District 5, serving Seminole County, and she is one of our candidates at the East Side Regional Hob Nob. Make sure to check her out on June 30th at the East Side Regional Hob Nob. That and so much more, go to esrhobnob.com to check out our one-on-one interviews and so much more about our candidates. Andria, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Have a great day. Thank you, Bridget.
Thank you, everyone.